Hey there, fellow truth seekers and enthusiasts of history's most perplexing enigmas. Welcome back to the channel that's dedicated to pulling back the curtain on the world's most intriguing and often unsettling stories. Ever feel that pull of curiosity, that urge to wonder? What if there's more to the story than meets the eye? That undeniable human instinct that compels us to question official narratives and seek out deeper truths? Today, we're taking a definitive leap back in time, directly into the vibrant, yet undeniably complex heart of the 1980s. In today's extensive deep dive, we're not merely scratching the surface. We're plunging headfirst into some of the most captivating, unsettling, and widely debated conspiracy theories that gripped the collective imagination during this pivotal decade. Prepare to explore narratives that range from the shadowy claims of secret government experiments conducted at a desolate military base in Montauk, New York, allegedly involving psychic powers and even portals to other dimensions, to the chilling whispers of TV mind control invading living rooms across America, with hidden messages supposedly altering thoughts and behaviors through the very airwaves. These are not just isolated anecdotes. They're sprawling narratives that profoundly shaped how a generation viewed authority, technology, and even reality itself. And they continue to spark fervent debate even today. If you're ready to peel back the layers of official history and explore the fascinating intersection of fear, innovation, and human imagination that defined the 80s, then you're absolutely in the right place. Before we unravel these astonishing narratives, do me a huge favor. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future explorations into the unexplained and the extraordinary. Number 1. Camp Hero's Secrets, the unseen hands of the Montauk Project. Along the tranquil coastline of Montauk, New York, sits Camp Hero, an abandoned military base shrouded in fencing, dense forest, and an air of profound mystery. This enigmatic location is central to one of the most bizarre and enduring conspiracy theories of the 1980s, the Montauk Project. This alleged top-secret government undertaking supposedly delved into the realms of psychological warfare, time travel, teleportation, and even extraterrestrial contact. The theory truly took hold in 1992 with the publication of Preston Nichols' book, The Montauk Project: Experiments in Time. Nichols claimed to have recovered suppressed memories from his alleged involvement at the facility in the 1980s, where he asserted he helped develop powerful electromagnetic devices for mind control. Nichols, along with other self-proclaimed whistleblowers, contended that these experiments were a continuation of Project MKUltra, the CIA's real-life mind control program from the 1950s and 60s. According to Nichols's unsettling accounts, the government abducted homeless children, disturbingly referred to as Montauk boys, and subjected them to horrific psychological experiments designed to cultivate telekinetic abilities. He even claimed one experiment inadvertently ripped open a portal through time, unleashing a monstrous creature from another dimension into our world. The narrative suggests that scientists, in a panic, hastily shut down the project after this being dubbed the Montauk Monster, wreaked havoc. The Montauk Project's intricate web of claims doesn't stop there. Believers often link it to the Philadelphia experiment, a supposed 1943 Navy operation intended to render a warship invisible. The theory posits that survivors from that earlier experiment were brought to Montauk decades later to continue their work. Even more outlandish claims suggest that scientists at Camp Hero manipulated reality itself, resulting in the existence of multiple timelines today. While a complete lack of verifiable proof exists for any of these extraordinary claims, that hasn't deterred the theory from solidifying its place as a pop culture staple. The eerie, Cold War-era aesthetic of Camp Hero, with its towering, decommissioned radar dish and layers of barbed wire, has only served to ignite further speculation. When the base opened as a state park in the early 2000s, explorers reported discovering sealed-off tunnels and strange underground structures, further fueling the mystique. Some even assert that the government still monitors the area, keeping certain sections off-limits to the public. The Montauk Project experienced a significant resurgence in the 2010s, largely due to the immense success of the Netflix series Stranger Things. The show initially pitched its pilot under the working title Montauk and its storyline, featuring a secret government lab conducting experiments on children with psychic powers and tearing a hole into another dimension, bears an uncanny resemblance to Nichols' accounts. This striking parallel undoubtedly introduced the conspiracy theory to a new generation, embedding it deeper into the collective consciousness. Skeptics are quick to dismiss the entire narrative as a concoction of pseudoscience, vivid imagination, and elements borrowed from science fiction. Critics point out Nichols' lack of any verifiable military or scientific background, and his recovered memories often appear inconsistent and unverifiable. However, for many conspiracy enthusiasts, such details are beside the point. The potent blend of Cold War paranoia, anxieties surrounding technological advancements, and deep-seated distrust of government secrecy creates the perfect storm for the Montauk Project to thrive as a speculative narrative. Whether it's a genuine cover-up or a compelling modern myth, the Montauk Project remains one of the most peculiar and utterly fascinating conspiracy theories to emerge from the 1980s. Its enduring appeal lies in its ability to tap into our deepest fears and wildest imaginations. What are your thoughts on how real-life locations and historical periods influence popular culture and fictional narratives? Number 2, moral decay. How the Satanic Panic gripped a nation. In the vibrant, yet often anxious, cultural landscape of 1980s North America, a peculiar phenomenon took root, seizing the collective imagination and igniting one of the most widespread moral panics in modern history, the Satanic Panic. This era of mass hysteria revolved around the terrifying notion that insidious satanic cults had stealthily infiltrated the very fabric of society, engaging in ritualistic abuse, indoctrinating vulnerable children, and operating from seemingly innocuous locations like preschools, churches, and even through the subtle influence of popular media. The seeds of this widespread fear were sown quietly in 1980 with the publication of Michelle Remembers, a book co-authored by Canadian psychiatrist Dr. Lawrence Posner and his patient, Michelle Smith. The book presented a deeply disturbing narrative, claiming that Michelle had, through therapy, recovered repressed memories of being subjected to horrific abuse by a satanic cult during her childhood. Despite the book's later debunking and the serious questions raised about the therapeutic techniques employed, its graphic and sensational content swiftly garnered national attention. It was a chilling narrative that resonated with latent anxieties, effectively planting the initial seed for a movement that would, in the years to come, spiral dramatically out of control. The panic truly exploded into public consciousness with the emergence of its most infamous case in 1983 in Manhattan Beach, California, the McMartin Preschool Trial. Staff members of the beloved family-run preschool found themselves facing an astonishing array of accusations. They were alleged to have committed heinous crimes involving satanic rituals, the use of secret underground tunnels, animal sacrifice, and even fantastical claims of flying witches. The investigation that ensued became an unprecedented legal marathon, stretching over 7 years and costing a staggering $15 million. making it one of the longest and most expensive trials in U.S. legal history. Yet, despite the immense resources poured into it and the widespread public outcry, the trial ultimately concluded with 0 convictions. Nevertheless, by the time the dust settled on the McMartin case, a chilling template for paranoia had already been firmly established, ready to be replicated across the continent. What followed the McMartin trial was a relentless wave of similar accusations that swept across communities throughout the United States and Canada. The fear became pervasive, fueled by various societal institutions. Police departments, eager to appear proactive, began conducting seminars on how to recognize occult symbols and identify signs of satanic activity. Television talk shows, always keen on sensationalism, dedicated entire episodes to dramatic, often unverified stories of satanic cult survivors. Daytime programming, from the influential platforms of Oprah Winfrey to Geraldo Rivera, played a significant role in fanning the flames, turning anecdotal claims into national spectacles. Daycare centers, once seen as safe havens for children, suddenly became targets of suspicion. Religious groups found themselves scrutinized, and even seemingly innocent pastimes like Dungeons and Dragons gaming sessions were viewed through the distorted lens of potential satanic threats. Parents were urged to meticulously watch for subtle shifts in their children's behavior, interpreting innocent quirks as potential indicators of hidden trauma caused by cultic abuse. A particularly insidious aspect of the Satanic Panic was the widespread adoption of controversial, recovered memory techniques by law enforcement and therapists. These methods, which later faced widespread criticism for being highly suggestible and unreliable, involved adults, often already convinced of satanic abuse, asking leading questions to children, many of whom were very young. Over time, under intense pressure and repeated questioning, these children began to provide answers that, tragically, confirmed the investigators' worst fears, even when their accounts were inconsistent, contradictory, or utterly impossible from a logical standpoint. The line between genuine memory and induced fantasy became dangerously blurred. Sociologists and psychologists now widely interpret the Satanic Panic as a classic case of mass moral panic, a fear that spread virally through a media environment increasingly fixated on danger, crime, and perceived deviance. The broader societal context of the 1980s provided fertile ground for such anxieties. The lingering tensions of the Cold War fostered a pervasive sense of nervousness and distrust. Traditional family structures were undergoing significant shifts, leading to uncertainty and a search for stability. Simultaneously, religious fundamentalism was gaining considerable cultural ground, emphasizing a clear-cut battle between good and evil. Against this backdrop of societal unease, it became disturbingly easy for many to believe that pure, malevolent evil had seeped into their seemingly safe communities. By the early 1990s, the tide began to turn. A combination of rigorous court appeals, in-depth journalistic investigations, and critical scholarly research began to systematically dismantle many of the panic's most prominent cases. It became painfully clear that the vast majority of the allegations were utterly devoid of credible evidence, and many of the so-called experts who had promoted these theories were thoroughly discredited. However, the damage had already been irrevocably done. Lives were shattered, reputations meticulously built over years were ruthlessly destroyed, and an entire generation grew up under the oppressive shadow of irrational fear and suspicion. The Satanic Panic stands as a chilling, cautionary tale, a stark reminder of how mass fear, amplified by media sensationalism and underpinned by flawed science and questionable therapeutic practices, can conspire to create devastating real-world consequences for evils that exist only in the realm of imagination. Number 3, the dawn of digital distrust. Television and the age of mind control paranoia. The 1980s heralded a new era of connectivity across the United States. With the explosion of cable television, millions of households suddenly gained access to an unprecedented flood of 24-hour programming. Yet alongside this technological leap came a pervasive wave of paranoia. The unsettling belief that the very medium transforming entertainment was, in fact, being secretly harnessed as a sophisticated tool for mass mind control. This anxiety was fueled by a potent cocktail of legitimate historical events, declassified government operations, and the burgeoning field of psychological marketing. At the heart of this burgeoning conspiracy theory lay genuine concerns. The chilling reality of Cold War psychological operations was no secret, and the documented existence of highly controversial CIA experiments like MKUltra, which explored mind-altering drugs and interrogation techniques, provided fertile ground for suspicion. Simultaneously, the rise of subliminal marketing, a then novel concept suggesting that hidden messages could influence consumer behavior, added another layer to the fear. Conspiracy theorists quickly synthesized these elements, claiming that not just government agencies, but even powerful private corporations were manipulating viewers' thoughts through insidious, hidden signals and messages embedded within everyday TV broadcasts. The theory predominantly centered on subliminal messaging, fleeting flashes of text, barely audible sounds, or fleeting images designed to be imperceptible to the conscious mind, yet supposedly potent enough to influence behavior. The terrifying notion was that while viewers sat relaxed and unsuspecting in their living rooms, government entities or corporate giants were covertly injecting commands into their minds. These alleged commands ranged from subtle political manipulation, guiding voting habits or public opinion, to more direct calls for product purchasing, compelling consumers to buy specific goods without conscious awareness. One of the most notorious examples that ignited these fears was a 1957 experiment conducted by market researcher James Vickery. Vickery claimed that by flashing the phrases "eat popcorn" and "drink Coca-Cola" for mere milliseconds during a movie, he observed a significant increase in sales of those products. Although Vickery later admitted his data was entirely fabricated, a sensational claim designed to drum up business for his marketing firm, the story had already burrowed deep into the public consciousness. By the 1980s, with video technology becoming increasingly accessible to the average person, a new pastime emerged. Scrutinizing commercials and programs frame by frame, often on newly available VCRs, convinced they would uncover evidence of subliminal programming. The concerns weren't limited to traditional television programs. The launch of MTV in 1981, with its rapid-fire edits and often provocative imagery in music videos, became another prime target for scrutiny. Evangelical groups and self-appointed moral watchdogs vehemently accused MTV of intentionally planting hidden sexual and violent messages designed to corrupt impressionable youth. Televangelists, wielding significant influence during this era, went so far as to claim that certain rock videos contained single frames featuring inverted crosses, demonic faces, and even silent, hypnotic suggestions crafted to lure unsuspecting teens into Satanism or rebellion against authority. The frenetic pace and visual novelty of music videos seemed to confirm, for many, that something unseen and sinister was at play. During this era, conspiracy theorists also broadened their focus to include the very mechanics of broadcast. Some speculated that the electromagnetic frequencies used in TV transmission could directly affect the human brain. Theorists posited that the government had secretly tested entrainment frequencies, specific wavelengths designed to induce particular brain states, ranging from inducing calm or fear to even triggering altered states of consciousness. The burgeoning prevalence of remote controls and the first wave of smart consumer electronics only intensified the feeling that individuals were losing control over what entered their homes, and, more alarmingly, their minds. In response to these escalating fears, concerned citizens began to call for federal investigations into media manipulation. Fringe researchers hosted seminars across the country, warning attendees of the dire dangers of subliminal warfare. Some took more extreme measures, famously wearing tinfoil hats or constructing homemade shielding devices in attempts to block what they believed were mind-altering frequencies emanating from their televisions. Interestingly, the U.S. military and the CIA had, indeed, conducted studies into psychological warfare via various media. Declassified documents later revealed a genuine interest in leveraging radio, television, and cinema as effective delivery systems for propaganda and mental influence, though not in the fantastical, direct mind control ways feared by the conspiracy theorists. Still, even this small kernel of truth provided immense credibility to the theories in the eyes of believers, allowing the narrative to persist and evolve. To this day, the enduring idea that media is not merely a source of entertainment, but a subtle, manipulative force persists in various forms, particularly in the age of digital information. The 1980s provided the perfect storm for this belief to flourish, a decade characterized by rapid technological advancement, a pervasive sense of political distrust following Watergate and Cold War anxieties, and profound shifts in traditional cultural values. Whether ultimately rooted in scientific possibility or sheer paranoia, the TV mind control theory remains a powerful cultural symbol, reflecting humanity's deep-seated fear of the invisible, yet potentially profound influence of the screen. What aspects of media manipulation or influence do you find most concerning in today's digital age? Number 4, the silent catastrophe, Chernobyl and the shadow of conspiracy. On April 26, 1986, the world collectively reeled from one of history's most devastating industrial accidents, the catastrophic explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Soviet Union. While the sheer scale of the disaster, with its widespread release of radioactive material, was undeniably devastating and extensively reported, a persistent parallel narrative quickly took root. This conspiracy theory posited that the Soviet government had deliberately orchestrated a monumental cover-up, meticulously concealing the true scale, cause, and long-term consequences of the tragedy from both its own populace and the international community. The official account, disseminated by Soviet authorities, attributed the disaster to a critical combination of a flawed reactor design and egregious operator error. This explanation stated that a poorly conceived safety test, combined with human misjudgment, led to a power surge, an explosion, and a subsequent fire that unleashed immense quantities of radioactive isotopes into the atmosphere. However, for many theorists, this straightforward explanation felt insufficient, even suspiciously convenient. They argued that the incident was far more sinister, perhaps the result of a covert sabotage operation, a failed weapons test gone horribly awry, or even a highly secretive, forbidden experiment that spiraled catastrophically out of control. Their primary evidence for these claims often rested on the Soviet Union's well-documented history of secrecy and misinformation. The argument was simple. If a government habitually withheld information from its own people in the world, then the true story of Chernobyl must have been deliberately buried beneath layers of fabricated data and official denials. In the immediate aftermath of the explosion, the Soviet Union faced a torrent of international criticism for its profound lack of transparency. Authorities were condemned for delaying the evacuation of nearby residents, most notably from the city of Pripyat, for several days after the incident. They were also criticized for withholding vital information about the disaster's true severity, allowing radioactive plumes to drift across Europe before admitting the catastrophe had occurred. This initial period of silence and denial inadvertently fed existing suspicions, both internationally and within Soviet borders. These initial actions quickly morphed into more concrete conspiracy claims. Theorists alleged that Soviet officials systematically suppressed evidence of radiation sickness among the population, downplayed the extent of environmental contamination, and actively minimized the projected long-term health effects on affected communities. Whispers from alleged whistleblowers and defectors further intensified these claims, hinting at instances where critical data was falsified and even that the deaths of plant workers or emergency responders were deliberately concealed or misclassified to hide the true human cost. Some conspiracy theorists ventured even further down the rabbit hole, proposing that the Chernobyl disaster wasn't an accident at all, but rather the result of a covert attempt to develop nuclear-powered weaponry that suffered a catastrophic failure. Alternatively, they suggested that the official reactor accident cover story was merely a convenient fabrication designed to hide a nuclear incident caused by top-secret military experiments being conducted on or near the site. The very existence of eerie ghost cities like Pripyat and vast, heavily restricted zones around the Chernobyl plant, inaccessible to the public, was frequently cited as irrefutable evidence of ongoing secret projects or concealed truths. Even the massive cleanup operation, often lauded as an act of immense sacrifice, became fertile ground for suspicion. The hundreds of thousands of individuals, many of them conscripted soldiers, who became known as the liquidators, those who bravely risked their lives to contain the fallout, later suffered a disproportionate rate of severe health problems. Many families of these liquidators reported that the Soviet government actively silenced those who knew too much about the accident's underlying causes or its true, devastating consequences, adding another layer to the narrative of state-sanctioned suppression. The Chernobyl conspiracy also found a natural home within the broader atmosphere of Cold War-era mistrust. During this period, Western intelligence agencies notoriously struggled to obtain accurate information from the notoriously secretive Soviet government. Furthermore, both superpowers actively engaged in sophisticated disinformation campaigns, muddying the waters of truth. This pervasive atmosphere of suspicion, where trust between nations was minimal, made it incredibly easy for rumors, alternative explanations, and elaborate conspiracy theories to take root and flourish. Despite the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 and decades of exhaustive scientific research into the disaster, some conspiracy theories about Chernobyl stubbornly persist. Believers continue to claim the existence of ongoing, undisclosed radiation hotspots, the operation of secret underground facilities beneath the exclusion zone, or continued government cover-ups regarding the true dangers and long-term effects of the disaster. While the overwhelming scientific consensus unequivocally supports the official explanation, the human error and severe design flaws were the undeniable causes of the meltdown. The enduring conspiracy theories serve as a potent reminder of how profound government secrecy and pervasive state propaganda can erode public trust, particularly during times of catastrophic crisis. Chernobyl's grim legacy is not just a stark warning about the inherent risks of nuclear technology, but also a compelling case study in how disaster, official secrecy, and societal fear can intertwine, spawning conspiracy theories that continue to reverberate for decades. What aspects of governmental transparency do you believe are most crucial for maintaining public trust during a crisis? Number 5. Beyond the Veil. Project Stargate and the Hunt for Psychic Spies in the 1980s. In the deepening shadows of the Cold War, the 1980s brought forth a truly startling revelation that blurred the lines between espionage, science fiction, and the paranormal. The U.S. government had, for decades, been secretly funding psychic research. This wasn't the stuff of crackpot inventors and hidden labs. Instead, it was a classified military intelligence operation known as Project Stargate. While its genesis traced back to the early 1970s, it was throughout the 1980s that Stargate gained significant momentum, secured substantial funding, and, perhaps inevitably, became embroiled in intense controversy. The fundamental premise behind Project Stargate was as audacious as it was unsettling. The U.S. Army and the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, genuinely believed that remote viewers, individuals who claimed to possess extrasensory perception, ESP, could use their minds to gather intelligence. Imagine, psychics, their consciousnesses untethered by physical boundaries, reportedly capable of spying on top-secret Soviet missile silos, mapping the layouts of underground bunkers, and even discerning the intricate details of what some theorized might be alien technology. It sounded like a plot ripped straight from a spy novel or a sci-fi blockbuster. Yet this program was very much real, operating under the veil of national security. Project Stargate's primary headquarters were nestled within the highly secure confines of Fort Meade, Maryland. Within its classified walls, dozens of dedicated government officials, rigorously trained psychics, and earnest scientists converged, all laboring under the audacious mission to weaponize the human mind. The theory that this was far more than mere academic research, that the United States had actively developed psychic spies capable of astral projection, telepathy, and even mind reading for covert military operations, powerfully captured the imagination of conspiracy theorists throughout the 1980s. Despite the profound secrecy cloaking the project, whispers about government psychics began to circulate through fringe publications, paranormal journals, and hushed conversations within esoteric circles. The sheer notion that highly respected intelligence agencies were investing substantial taxpayer money into developing techniques for mind control and clairvoyance raised not only serious scientific questions, but profound ethical dilemmas. What did it mean for human autonomy if such powers could be harnessed, let alone controlled, by the state? Among the project's most touted successes were the claims made by its operatives. Ingo Swann, a prominent and often eccentric remote viewer, famously claimed to have accurately described intricate details of Jupiter's atmospheric rings and turbulent conditions before they were definitively confirmed by NASA's Voyager probes. Another key operative, Joseph McMonigle, asserted that he could view top-secret Soviet military installations from thousands of miles away, using nothing more than his heightened consciousness. Skeptics, of course, were quick to dismiss these as exaggerated anecdotes or mere coincidences, arguing they lacked concrete, verifiable proof. Yet, for believers, these isolated instances were merely the tantalizing tip of a much larger, hidden iceberg, hinting at extraordinary, untapped human potential. By the mid-1980s, Project Stargate had reportedly grown in scope, expanding to include multiple branches and collaborating with other powerful entities, including the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, and various university laboratories. This expansion only fueled further speculation. Some theorists went so far as to believe the program had branched into even more fantastical realms. Experimental telekinesis, the mind control of animals for espionage, and even interdimensional surveillance, attempting to glean intelligence from other realities or planes of existence. The inherent secrecy of the project and the utterly surreal nature of its stated mission naturally led to suspicions that the public was being kept in the dark about the full story. What if the government had, against all conventional scientific understanding, actually succeeded in developing psychic operatives? Were these individuals being deployed for purposes far beyond simple intelligence gathering? Some fervent believers speculated that the program's true, ultimate aim was to locate hidden alien bases, engage in highly dangerous time travel experiments, or even intercept crucial messages from other realms of existence, pushing the boundaries of known reality. By 1995, the U.S. government officially declassified and shut down Project Stargate. Their stated reason? The program, despite decades of significant funding, had supposedly yielded no actionable intelligence. However, this official explanation, rather than quelling doubts, only ignited further speculation among conspiracy enthusiasts. If the project was such an abject failure, they argued, why was it kept classified under such strict secrecy for over 2 decades? Why the immense resources poured into something so seemingly unproductive? To this day, many firmly believe that Stargate didn't truly end. Instead, they contend that it simply went deeper underground, cloaked beneath new names, hidden within opaque black budget operations, and continuing its mysterious work away from public scrutiny. The tantalizing idea that the government could, and indeed did, train soldiers to become genuine psychic warriors remains one of the most powerful and enduring conspiracy theories to emerge from the tense crucible of the Cold War era. While skeptics view it as merely a curious, albeit expensive, footnote in military history, believers embrace it as compelling proof that the human mind harbors extraordinary, latent powers we've only begun to tap into, and that someone, somewhere, knows precisely how to harness them. What other real-life government programs or historical events do you think have fueled significant conspiracy theories? And that brings us to the conclusion of our compelling journey into some of the 1980s most enduring and, frankly, bewildering conspiracy theories. We ventured through narratives that took hold in an era defined by rapid technological leaps and profound cultural shifts, where everything from abandoned military bases to the very airwaves we consumed became fertile ground for suspicion and speculation. Whether you find yourself inclined to view these astonishing narratives as genuine glimpses into hidden government operations, as powerful warnings about unchecked power, or simply as fascinating case studies in mass psychology and the pervasive influence of narrative, one undeniable truth remains. These stories continue to resonate with us, even decades later. They serve as potent reminders of the enduring human fascination with the unknown, the unseen forces that might shape our world, and the persistent question of what secrets governments and institutions might keep from the public eye. The true legacy of these theories isn't just about the specific claims made, but about how easily fear and suspicion can take root and spread rapidly in times of profound change and uncertainty. They stand as powerful historical reminders to always maintain a healthy skepticism, to diligently seek out diverse and reliable sources of information, and, most importantly, to think critically about the narratives we're presented with, whether from official channels or alternative sources. Understanding these past panics and theories helps us navigate the complex information landscape of our own time. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of the mysteries that linger from this incredible decade, and there are countless more hidden histories and intriguing theories waiting to be uncovered in future episodes. If you found this deep dive into the 80s hidden world as fascinating as we did, please consider giving this video a big thumbs up. That simple gesture truly helps us reach more curious minds just like yours. Also, don't hesitate to drop a comment below with your thoughts on these theories, or perhaps suggest other historical enigmas you'd love for us to explore in an upcoming video. We absolutely love hearing from you and engaging with your insights. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be eagerly waiting to see you in the next one, where another mystery awaits.